The graveyard stood at the edge of the city, forgotten by progress and avoided by instinct. People called it Nurabad Kabristan, though no one remembered who Nurabad was or why the name still survived. The place had been closed for burials decades ago, yet new graves continued to appear, unmarked, unnamed, and unacknowledged. Officially, no one spoke of it. Unofficially, everyone knew better than to go near it after sunset. The air there felt heavier, as if sound itself struggled to move, and even birds refused to fly above it. Locals said the graveyard did not belong to the dead alone. It listened. Armin was not the kind of person who believed in such things. As a freelance documentary researcher, he chased abandoned places, unsolved disappearances, and urban myths. Fear, he believed, was created by ignorance. When he heard about Nurabad Kabristan, he saw an opportunity, an unexplored story, a mystery untouched by proper investigation. According to scattered reports, at least 11 people had gone missing near the graveyard in the past 20 years. No bodies were found, no suspects identified, no official cases remained open. Everything ended in silence. That silence intrigued him more than the disappearances themselves. He arrived at the graveyard just before dusk. Rusted iron gates leaned inward, as if the place was collapsing into itself. The ground inside was uneven, cracked, and strangely warm underfoot despite the winter air. Tombstones stood at unnatural angles, some broken, some blank, others carved with names so eroded they no longer belonged to any language. Armin turned on his camera, narrating calmly, forcing confidence into his voice. As he stepped inside, the sounds of the city vanished completely. No traffic, no wind, not even his own footsteps echoed properly. It felt as though the ground absorbed noise. As darkness settled, Armin noticed something unsettling. The graveyard was not empty. He could sense presence, not movement, not figures, but awareness, the feeling that something was paying attention. Every time he stopped walking, the silence thickened, pressing against his ears until he felt dizzy. When he spoke, his voice sounded distant, delayed, as if the words were reluctant to exist. He laughed nervously, blaming acoustics, but his body disagreed. His heartbeat was too loud, too exposed. Near the center of the graveyard, Armin found a cluster of newer graves. No dates, no names, just small stones placed carefully at the head of each mound. He counted 12. His throat tightened. The number did not match official records. He knelt down, touching the soil. It was loose, recently disturbed. Beneath his fingers, the ground seemed to shift slightly, not sinking, but adjusting, like muscle responding to pressure. He pulled his hand back sharply. A whisper reached him then. Not a voice, not words, more like breath brushing against his thoughts. He spun around, camera shaking, but saw nothing. The graves remained still. The trees beyond the walls stood frozen. Then the whisper came again, clearer this time, carrying a sense of urgency and despair. Armin felt the impossible certainty that the sound was not coming from above the ground, but from beneath it. He tried to leave. The gate was gone. Where the entrance had been, there was only a continuous stretch of cracked wall. No opening, no hinge marks, no sign the gate had ever existed. Panic surged through him. He ran along the perimeter, calling out, shouting, but the sound died instantly, swallowed whole. The graveyard did not return noise. It kept it. The whispers grew louder now, overlapping, layered voices speaking at once, not to his ears but directly into his mind. They were not asking for help. They were warning him. You should not have spoken, the voices seemed to say. Armin stumbled backward. Falling near an open grave he was certain had not been there before. The hole was deep, impossibly dark, absorbing light like a wound in reality. He pointed his camera inside. The screen flickered. For a moment, the image showed something that was not soil, walls, narrow and smooth, like a corridor underground. Then the feed cut to static. From the darkness below came a sound that broke him completely. Muffled breathing, slow and weak, as if someone had been buried alive long ago and had learned how to breathe as quietly as possible. He backed away, shaking, unable to scream. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. The graveyard did not allow screams. It only allowed listening. Time lost meaning. Armin wandered, exhausted, surrounded by graves that shifted subtly whenever he looked away. Paths rearranged themselves. Tombstones changed positions. Names appeared briefly, then vanished. He saw figures at the edge of his vision. People standing motionless, half-formed, their faces blank and hollow. When he turned to face them directly, they sank into the ground without resistance, as if the earth itself was swallowing them again. At some point, Armin realized the whispers were no longer warnings. They were confessions, stories of people who had come here by accident, curiosity, or desperation. A child chasing a ball, a drunk man taking a shortcut, a grieving woman looking for closure, a policeman investigating illegal burials. None of them had been killed. None of them had been attacked. They had simply stayed too long, spoken too loudly, listened too closely. The graveyard did not hunt. It did not chase. It waited until people noticed it. And once noticed, it noticed back. Armin collapsed beside a grave marked with his own name. The realization did not shock him. It felt inevitable, as if the grave had always been there, waiting for him to catch up. His camera lay beside him, cracked but still recording. In its reflection, he saw himself fading, not disappearing physically, but becoming less solid, less present. His thoughts slowed. His fear dulled. The whispers softened, becoming familiar, almost comforting. He understood then why no cases were solved. There was no crime to investigate, no act of violence. The graveyard did not take lives. It absorbed existence. By dawn, Nurabad Kabristan was quiet again,